Oh my, right. Lions and tigers and bears. All right. So today we are going to talk about simplicity versus luxury, opulence versus austerity. Many different ways to kind of slice that dynamic. But the bottom line is, when we look at Jewish sources, we find some conflicting knowledge on the topic. And I feel like I've shared this recently in the class, at least part of it, maybe one half of the dimension. But it's important to recognize that we do find conflicting angles within Jewish thought. So one angle is that it's better to live simply than to live more complexly, if that's the right word, right? It's better to, as Pirkei Avot says, Ethics of the Fathers, it says, what is the way of the wise? What is the way of the righteous? Pas b'melech tochel, you should eat bread with salt, drink a little bit of water, and v'al haaretz tishan, and you should sleep on the ground, meaning live a life of deprivation almost, right? And then you will merit to be a Torah scholar, to be studious, to be righteous, to be wise, all of the wonderful virtues, which implies, quite simply, that living a little bit of a more luxurious life can take away from our spiritual ascendancy. Which, by the way, is not such a far-fetched notion. The idea that if somebody's running after material stuff, right? If somebody's running after the next thing or the greatest thing or the next pleasure or whatever it is, so it's going to take away time that a person has otherwise allocated to study and to pray and to meditate, etc. So that's one angle. And then on the other hand, we find the notion that indeed God Almighty gave us, put us in this world and gave us things to enjoy. And yes, God did forbid certain pleasures as being, off limits, but others, God said, go ahead, it's kosher, enjoy. And in fact, the Talmud says that when a person passes away and the soul is judged by the heavenly court, part of that judgment is that the soul is taken into account each and every permitted pleasure that it could have had that it didn't. It's held accountable. It's held to account for. So what does that mean? I walk by the buffet, I have to try everything? Like, what does it even mean? So there's a lot of commentaries on this and a lot of conversation about this, but at the core, it comes down to this question of which is preferable for the spiritually minded, right? Is it preferable to live in a way of deprivation or in a way of indulgence and luxury? And maybe the answer is somewhere in between. What would you say?
Yeah.
Modest.
Modestly. But
live modestly.
In the middle.
In the middle. Good. By the way, it's always valid to go in the middle. Maimonides says, famously, in his Hilchot Deot, in his laws of character refinement, he says that in general, when it comes to character, to kind of like training our character, always find the extremes and aim for the middle. When it comes to chesed, find the extreme lack of chesed, the extreme, always chesed all the time, and then go down the middle, a balanced amount of chesed, etc. The only exception to that rule, by the way, of balance is when it comes to anger. Rambam writes, Maimonides says, when it comes to anger, go the extreme opposite of anger. No anger. Anger never is beneficial. It never helps, etc. Anyway, that's another topic to unpack. That's not for today. But getting back to our conversation, when it comes to thinking about how one should kind of chart their life, should there be a sense of material extravagance or material deprivation or austerity? So again, the one answer would be to aim for the middle, but really I think it's important to understand what are the values of each. And what it comes down to is this. What it comes down to is that if a person finds themselves in a challenging situation, so in a situation where materialism or a certain material pleasure is becoming a challenge for them, a spiritual challenge, then it's important to run the other way. Whereas if a person has spiritual mastery over something, then indeed a person can engage and uplift. That is the rule of thumb. the rule of thumb is that we're here to transform the world, to uplift the world. And that only happens with engagement. But you got to know if you have the power to flip it for the positive, or if you'll be flipped for the negative. And that's already a personal, that's where self-awareness comes in. I think we recently covered this topic in a conversation about the virtue or the value of nidarim, of oaths. A few weeks ago, in reading one of the Torah portions of the book of Numbers, it talks about the mitzvah of keeping your vows and oaths. And it talks about the process of annulling your vows and oaths. And an oath or a vow could mean something, it could be any sort of, type of oath or vow, but it also could include the idea of, I'm no longer going to have bagels and cream cheese. By the way, I didn't say that. I was only giving an example. I was not taking an oath in that statement. Now you're tempting me, right? So imagine somebody says, I'm no longer going to enjoy, dairy foods, or I'm no longer going to have, I don't know, gefilte fish, whatever it is. Imagine someone takes a vow like that or an oath like that. So they have to abide by it. But there's a process of annulment where you can officially annul it, and then you can resume activity. So the question is taking such vows of abstention, is it a good thing or a bad thing? And the answer is, it depends, right? Kind of down the middle. It depends. If you find yourself challenged by that physical temptation, then by all means, you might need to distance yourself from it, which is where the vow comes in. It's no different than someone who struggles with any form of addiction, right? Let's say somebody struggles with alcohol. So that person would very justifiably say, I'm going to not engage because I know if I have one drink, it might not end well. So that's it. No more drinking for me. We have the biblical example. I'm not saying it was because of that same reason, but the biblical example of the Nazir, of the Nazarite. Who was the Nazir? The Nazir is the one who said, I'm no longer going to drink any wine or any grape products or come in contact with the dead or become or otherwise become impure. And that was a vow that was binding until such point that either the term of the vow ended or the individual asked for annulment of that vow. The point is that sometimes people have to distance themselves from certain things for their own health, whether it's physical health, emotional health, mental health, or spiritual health. I mean, how many times have not how many times, but is it out of the norm to suggest that in our own lives, we have encountered maybe even individuals that we have felt that the relationship between us is a bit toxic. And the only way forward is to disassociate a little bit, is to say, you know what? And maybe not even to tell the person, but just in our own heart of hearts to say, you know what? I'm just going to interact a little bit less for my own well-being, for my own health. Because at the end of the day, I have to take care, I have to make sure that I'm okay, that I am healthy, that I'm of sound mind and of sound heart and of sound spirit and of sound body. And in order to do that, sometimes you have to cut ties with something, whether it's a pleasure, a substance, sometimes a person. I'm not saying that these decisions are taken lightly or made flippantly, but these are things that do require sometimes careful consideration. Hey, good to see you. Was the gate?
Man, yeah, I almost turned around. I'm like, man, God is seeing other signs. I'm like, God is saying not to go into that.
Yeah. How did you eventually get in?
Honestly, man, I sat there for like 7 minutes, and I finally was like, okay, I'm gonna turn around. And funny enough, like a person came.
They came at that point.
And a person came the other direction, and someone stopped coming out and was like, hey.
I'm glad you got in. Yeah, they're trying to lock that gate. We have to give folks the way to get in, but we'll talk about that. All right, I'm glad.
It's in Savant service yesterday, and they were gonna do it. I'm like, oh no, it's fine. Like they had that color.
Right. Yeah. All right. We'll talk about it after. So there is a process embedded within Torah law and intuitively within human societies by which people make vows of abstention and say, you know what? I'm no longer going to have that substance. I'm going to cut out sugar. I'm going to cut out gluten. I'm going to cut out dairy. I'm going to cut out carbs, whatever it is. I'm going to cut out this thing because I feel for me, it's not healthy for me. Now, it might be fine for someone else, but for me, it's not healthy. So again, whether it's physical, food or otherwise, whether it's emotional, I'm not going to subject myself to certain types of, information that triggers me emotionally. Whether it's intellectual, I'm not going to have a debate about certain things with people because there's no point for the debate. Or whether it's spiritual, I'm not going to put myself in a situation that I find myself consistently failing spiritually because that context is not good for my soul. So there are all these instances, and again, we're dividing it. Dividing it into these four sections: physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. The bottom line is, of all of these, the common denominator is that there are moments and there are times in our lives that legitimately call for us to say no. For someone else, it might be a yes, but for me, it's a no. And this becomes very important because even though the Torah might have said it's permitted, the human being is allowed to say, but for me, it's not healthy. In fact, let's go a step further. The Ramban, Nachmanides, comments on the Torah portion of Kedoshim. It's one of the Torah portions in the book of Leviticus and the book of Vayikra. And the Torah portion begins by giving us the instruction of Kedoshim Tihiyu. You shall be holy. Or in the Old English, thou shalt be holy, right? You shall be holy. Comes along the Ramban Nachmanides and says, this is a biblical mitzvah, to be holy. What does it mean to be holy? What kind of biblical mitzvah is that? How is it actionable? So the commentators come along and say, you know what it means? I'll say it first in Hebrew, and then I'll translate. Kadesh atzmecha b'mutar lach. Sanctify yourself or create opportunities of abstention, even in the areas that are permitted to you, even in the areas that the Torah, that God Almighty says it's okay, but you and I should be looking to say, but you know what? I don't need it. There's an old Hasidic aphorism. Was men tarnet, tarmenet. Und was men meg, darf men it. What we cannot, we cannot. And what we may, we don't need. That's the expression. You with me on that? Make sense? In other words, what's forbidden is forbidden, and what's permitted, do I really need it? Is it necessary? Is it obligatory just because it's permitted? The answer is no. I don't need it, but I want it. But maybe I don't need to have everything that I want. One of the fundamentals, and I know I spoke about this recently in a class or two, one of the fundamentals of the Hasidic lifestyle is to engage in the practice of iskafia or itkafia, which is the idea of telling oneself, just because I want it doesn't mean I should have it. In fact, on the contrary, because I want it, I'm not going to have it. I'm going to practice a little self-control. And by the way, this is very important. It's very important to recognize this. The Talmud says, how does the Yetzer Hara, how does the evil inclination have its way with us? How does that happen? How is it that a person of sound mind and sound spirit makes a bad decision? I don't mean investing in a stock that you thought was going to go up and it went down. That's already, predicting the future. But I mean, how does a person make a decision that they know at the time is not a healthy decision? Later on, they'll look back and say, oh, what was I thinking? So how does a person in the moment do it? You ever hear somebody say, like in retrospect, oh, what was I thinking? Oh, how could I have done that? Oh, or maybe even say the line that I find so interesting. Oh, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. It was you, right? You wish it wasn't you. It definitely was you. The question is, how do we make such mistakes? How do we make such glaring mistakes? The answer is very simple. In the moment, we had a different calculus. In the moment, we thought, well, it's not good, but it looks good. It'll taste good. It'll feel good. So let me just do it now. What will happen later? I'm blocking out, putting on the blinders. Let me just engage in this right now. Adam and Eve. I spoke about this a little bit yesterday in a different context. Adam and Eve. What? They really thought they were going to get away with it? I mean, come on. Maybe they did. Maybe there had never been anyone that sinned before, so they were like, I don't know what happens. Like I always say, not to let him off the hook, but Cain and Abel, Cain killed his brother Abel. I mean, did anyone even know what it meant to kill at that point? What a fatal blow would be? I mean, did he even know that it was possible? And I'm not letting him, I sound like a defense attorney here, and I'm not trying to defend, homicide. But on the other hand, I don't know. It had never been done before.
Did anyone ever try to hide something from God?
You're right. So that's the thing, right? Adam literally hides, behind the tree or but whatever it is. Adam is hiding. And God says, where are you? And he says, I'm hiding. And God says, did you do something wrong? And he says, oh, me? No, I didn't do anything wrong. No. Eve totally messed up. She's the one that you really want to talk to. And then the story continues. But the point is that how could Adam and Eve make such a big mistake? Because they weren't thinking past the pleasure right in front of them. And that's what happens. A person says, oh, wow, this looks good. This will taste good. This will feel good. But it might destroy my life. All right, we'll deal with it then. But it'll blow up your life. It might blow up your family. You might lose it all. Yeah, but it's going to be so exciting. I mean, I'm going to roll the dice. If it happened once in history, it would be a curiosity. It happens every single day in either a very large scale or even a small scale. But these are the type of calculi, right, that people make. It's like, oh, it's not a big deal. There's a phrase for this in the Talmud. The Talmud says, Ein Adam over Avera, a person does not commit a sin, Ella imkain, unless nichnas bo, there enters within him or her, ruach shtus, a spirit of folly. No one would ever commit a sin if not for the spirit of folly. And now a person's thinking, great, I have an amazing defense. Your Honor, Almighty, God Almighty, I am innocent of the accused crime. It was not I that sinned. It was the spirit of folly that made me do it. No, the Talmud is not saying we're off the hook because there was a spirit of folly. What the Talmud is saying is, essentially, if you're thinking clearly, you would never make a mistake. The only reason we do make mistakes and make bad decisions is because in the moment, there's a voice inside of us that says, try it. You'll like it. Don't worry about the consequences. Whatever. You deserve it. You know how many different narratives, variations of this there are? It's all the self-justification. That's what the spirit of folly is. Self-justification. Sometimes it says, it's not so bad. You're not going to get caught. Or it might say, it's not so bad. Everyone's doing it. Or it might say, you know what? You really deserve it. You deserve it. After all you've been through, after all you've said, you deserve this. Or it might say, this is a sin? Are you kidding me? This is a mitzvah. This is a good thing. That's the bolder spirit of folly. That's the bolder voice inside. Oh, you think this is bad? No, this is good, and I'll tell you why it's good. That's an even deeper level of delusion, where it's like, this is bad, this is good. You have so many different layers and levels of this. And at the end of the day, comes back to the same thing. The same thing is that it's all about that inner voice somehow convincing us one way or the other. When we have that rational, godly, clear thinking voice also inside of us saying, that's a really bad idea. like that. But everyone's doing it, bro. That's a bad idea. Yeah, but I'm never going to get caught. It's still a bad idea. You deserve it. It's still a bad idea. They deserve it. It's still a bad idea. That voice, oftentimes, we don't listen to. But the voice that says, go for it, we do listen to. So the question is why? So the Talmud gives, and I'm quoting the Talmud a lot today in the Kabbalah class, but here we are. It's all one Torah. It's all interconnected. So the Talmud says the following, which is a beautiful idea. The Talmud says, Kach umnato shel yetzer hara. This is the craft of the evil inclination. Hayom Amar lo aseh kach. Today it says, do this. Umachar. And tomorrow, Amar lo, it says, aseh kach, do that. Until it says, go serve an idol. How do we understand that? We understand it that the yetzer hara, the evil inclination, doesn't start off day one and say, oh, serve an idol. Because you would say, no, I don't do that. I don't serve idols. But rather it says, oh, do this. It's permitted, but do this. Go a little extra over here. And then tomorrow, go a little extra over here. Or maybe cut that corner, cut the other corner. And after a little bit, and maybe after a long while, it certainly can play the long game with the best of them, or evil inclination. It's in it to win it, right? Eventually, we find ourselves listening to that voice inside, and then whatever it tells us, we'll be like, okay, sounds good. I mean, I've been listening to you all along. You've been my oracle until now. You've been the voice of direction for me. And so the point is, where does the line of demarcation begin? It begins not at the end. At the end, it's too late. It's like the ascetic rabbi that once told his disciples, at every moment, you should imagine yourself as lying down by the guillotine, and the evil inclination is standing above you with a blade to your neck, ready to chop your head off. Like, be on guard. And one of the disciples asked, well, what if I don't feel like that? He's like, well, then it's already cut your head off. It's already, I mean, then it's already happened. Which means that line of demarcation doesn't begin at the end. Oh, when it says go, and by the way, the serve an idol, you and I are thinking, oh, that's such a safe example. I'm not going to do that. Phew. just switch out idol for whatever the sin is, right? But when it says go serve the idol, that's too late to say no if you've listened to everything that's said up until now. So where is that line of demarcation? From the beginning. The moment it said, go a little extra on the indulgence. You don't need it. It's not part of your spiritual work, but do it anyway. Why? Because it tastes good, because it feels good. But it's kosher. But just do it because it feels good. The moment you say yes to that, we are opening ourselves up to saying yes to something that feels good. That's absolutely forbidden. Or the moment it says, cut a corner. You don't have to do the mitzvah exactly right. You can whatever. You can cut some corners on it. That's the moment we open up ourselves up to cutting out things altogether. It's the first moment, not the last moment. The last moment, it's already too late. Already headed down a path. It's the first, being on guard, being vigilant in those first moments of making sure that we stand strong, we stand tough, and we say no to that inner voice that's trying to pull us in a negative direction. But the only way we can do that is if we're aware that this inner voice exists. That's why, circling back, that's why the Torah tells us, according to many of the great commentaries, Kedoshim tihiyu, you shall be holy. Kadesh atzmacha b'mutar. Sanctify yourselves, or create a separation of abstention even from the things that are permitted to you. But wait, if it's permitted, why shouldn't I have it? Because which voice is telling you to go for it? Your godly soul or your animal soul? Your higher self or your lower self? Ask that question. That indulgence, even permissible, what is the motivation? If the motivation is the lower self, Okay, but you've now opened the door to listening to that voice. What happens if it turns around somewhere down the line and says, let's do something that's not exactly kosher? Then what? You guys are buds. How then are you going to say no? How then it's like, like when there's like red lines. It's like, oh, that's a red line. And then something happens and crosses over the red line. You're like, well, what happened to that red line? Well, we moved the red line. It's like, makes sense what I'm saying? Yes? Sort of. So what's the value? What's the value of living a more austere life? What's the value of living living a life of deprivation, as it were? The advantage of that is that we're less in the clutches of the evil inclination of the animal soul. And the less we're in its clutches, the less we're going to get trapped up into all the craziness that it brings, the drama and the circus that will eventually try to convince us to engage in. So that's one point. Let's talk about the counterpoint. The counterpoint is God created things in this world, and God said that it's permitted. So who are we to start banning things that God says is good? Imagine God gives the thumbs up and we're like, nope, rejected. That's a bit of a chutzpah. The way we reconcile this is to say that it depends. If we can engage, uplift, gain mastery over that thing and elevate the sparks within it to holiness, great. I mean, that is the whole purpose of existence. I think art imitates life, and certainly video games, gaming imitates spirituality in a tremendous way. I'm not suggesting that the original creators of Super Mario Brothers or other types of video games like that studied Kabbalah, but if they did, they would probably have created the same game. Because isn't life the very same concept of going around from place to place, dimension to dimension, and finding the coins and rescuing the hidden treasures and rescuing the captive princesses, etc. Kabbalah says thousands of years ago, that's the whole purpose of existence. The whole purpose of us being here and the world being here is that there are sparks, shards, whatever, points of light embedded in the physical world around us. And our job is to seek them out and to extract them. And the only way to extract them is by engaging in the husk. Imagine if inside this box was not just this webcam thing, but imagine if it was a precious gem or a webcam, right? But it's sealed in the box. And your job or my job is to find the box, open it up, and to rescue the hidden item inside. That's what life actually is. And there's hidden energy inside of the food that we eat. There's hidden energy inside the money that we make. There's hidden energy inside every physical thing within creation, not just the spiritual things, the physical things. And in things that are kosher, you can take out the gem. In things that are not kosher, the case is too tight. You can't break it open. That's why I mentioned this before in previous classes. Maybe it's been a while. That's why in Hebrew, the term for forbidden is asur. Asur means forbidden, but it literally means tied up. Asur means tied down. Meaning, why is it forbidden? Why is it off limits? Because the spark inside it is too tied down to it. You're not going to be able to get to pull it out. The only way to deal with it is by rejecting it. Its spark, its purpose is fulfilled by saying no to it. Not by engaging it for a higher purpose, but by saying no. Whereas the things that are mutar, permitted, engage, crack it open, extract the spark, and let it soar back up to the source. That's Kabbalah gamifies life. And I mean that quite seriously. Kabbalah, the great Kabbalists came, if we want to think about it in modern terminology, they gamified life. Now, gamify is an expression that's used today. I'll give you an example. Waze. Anybody use Waze? I've talked about this also recently. Waze has these points. Like if you report police officer, if you report an accident, then they have +6. You get 6 points. My kids asked me recently, what are the points for? I said, nothing. You get nothing with the points. But it somehow incentivizes and encourages people to report things because you get points. That's what we mean when we say gamify. Gamify means you turn life into a game. You make it exciting. It's like, oh, it's not just, why should I work for Waze? You know what's a point of slight annoyance in my life? The self-checkout. Does anybody find that annoying? Slightly annoying? You go to Kroger, and instead of the checkout aisles being open, there's only self-checkout. And if I'm buying a lot of stuff, it's like, especially vegetables, I'm weighing things. Sometimes they have the conveyor belt thing, but then it gets stuck and it starts sending it backwards. And I'm like, what is happening here? What is happening here? So, and sometimes I think like I should submit my hours to Kroger. Like maybe I should get a paycheck. Like what's actually happening here? Like maybe I should say like I worked for you, 10 hours this month. What's the hourly rate? Like I'm ready to roll. Like you don't want to pay your check, so pay me. Okay, that all joking aside, I was thinking just now as I'm talking, what if they made it, somehow they gamified it? Every item. So if anyone from Kroger is listening or associated with Kroger, feel free to steal this idea and make it work. You want to get people more excited about self-checkout? Maybe they don't care. Maybe they're like, this is it. We don't really care. But if they did care, one way to do it would be to say every item that you self-checkout, you get a point. I mean, Kroger anyway does points. And this is actually a good idea.
Yeah, you should do
Right?
that. You should do
I'm just saying, right? And now it's like, oh, I'm not annoyed to self-checkout. I'm earning some credit by self-checkout. Every time I self-checkout, I'm actually earning points. I mean, how much are their points worth anyway? Probably not that much. Waze gives imaginary points. And I'm still like, I'm still on it. I'm like, oh, I got 6 points. I don't even know can't even cash that in. So imagine if Kroger said, the point of gamifying something is to motivate. Well, part of it is to motivate, right? So you get motivated. Or for example, you have health apps, right? So if you run, right, and you have your smartwatch or your smartphone, it'll track how many miles you ran or how many steps you took this day or how many, whatever it is. They make the apps like a game. Like, oh, did you hit your goal today? Oh, you're only X number of steps away from your goal. Why do they do that? Incentivize it. If it's a game, you want to win the game, right? You want to score you want to get a high score. Peloton, the bikes. Peloton, right? I don't know if anyone's used Peloton. Right? But it's all about gamification. There's an instructor on your screen and you're pedaling and there's a whole scoreboard there and you have your best output and then you have other people and you can all of this stuff to incentivize and encourage you to keep on going.
Right.
I'm not saying, yeah.
It's just interesting you say that because when I started studying Kabbalah, I remember they would speak about a pillar of like there's a pillar in like every action, even like a small action, raise the pillar just a little bit and get to the point. And even when I was reading it, I was like, oh, so there's a meter. And you have to fill the meter up, and when you do that, you win the game.
Right. and it's Judaism has a very, even like forget Kabbalah for a second. Judaism has a very strong sense of this. What do I mean? Judaism believes, and not exclusively, but Judaism does believe that there is an end time that's better than we have now. We call that Mashiach, the Messianic era. Right? As Maimonides writes in Halach, in his book of law, Jewish law, he says, at that time, there will not be any jealousy and no anger and no wars and no one's going to kill each other. And the occupation of everybody will only be to know God and be peaceful. And all of the world's delights will be freely as available as the dust is today. You know what that is? You know what that is? That's gamifying it. That's saying that all the stuff we're doing now, even though it seems like maybe we're not getting anywhere, we're getting closer and closer to a goal. And the goal is great. The goal is, it's not winning, because what are we winning? But the goal is something better than what we have now. There's some sort of, I don't know if you want to call it a prize or whatever, but it's incentivizing. Mashiach is an incentive. And it's not, and I just want to be very clear here, I'm not suggesting that like ways, these are artificial constructs that are just meant to encourage people, to convince them that what they're doing matters and makes sense. What I'm suggesting is that Kabbalah reveals a truth, and the truth is that we are progressing toward a goal, toward a great goal, number one. And number two, every time we engage something permitted and utilize it for something positive, we are extracting the coin, the spark, the gold, the light, whatever euphemism you want to use, doesn't make a difference, right? We're extracting the potential, the purpose, the destiny of that thing, lifting it up and elevating it to a higher source. That's the only reason why we're here. Kabbalah says, why are we here? We're here to make the world not just generally a better place, but make it a brighter place, make it a holier place by finding the points of light. I've mentioned this before in previous classes as well. Every soul has its sparks that it needs to find, just like in a parking lot. And there's a lot of cars here. We have a big crowd today for the musical Hallow service. Yeah, you have your car keys, right? Let's see what I have here. I think I have a car key on me. I should. Otherwise, how am I going to get home? Let me pull this out for the effect. Okay, here we go. I have a Honda car key, one of these little fob things. Go out to the parking lot, and I hit unlock. How many cars will this unlock? Only one. I cannot unlock your car or your car or your car. I cannot unlock anyone else's car. The only car I can unlock with my key is my car. And conversely, you cannot unlock my car. Only my soul can unlock certain sparks. I cannot unlock your sparks. You cannot unlock my sparks. That is the Kabbalistic understanding behind the 10th commandment of the 10, the top 10 commandments. Number 10, sound like Letterman. Number 10, do not covet. You know why? What's the point? You want someone else's stuff? Why? You can't access it. Oh, you can enjoy the physical part of it, maybe, but you'll never be able to unlock the spark inside. So what's the point? What's the point of wanting someone else's stuff? It's not going to work anyway. There's no utility for it. There's no point. So what does it all come down to? It all comes down to recognize that there's something of potential. There's something of purpose embedded deep within every single thing that exists. Now, sometimes the message is reject it. Sometimes the message is engage with it, right? Engage with it and connect with it. It depends on what it is. It depends if it's yours and if it's kosher. I don't mean that in the literal food sense, but in the general sense, if it's kosher, not forbidden. So now I'll share with you a story that we have, again, used before in different contexts, and certainly this context makes sense. The story of King Saul's great mistake. What happened? He was told to get rid of Amalek. And what happens? He doesn't. And God tells the prophet Samuel, Shmuel Hanavi, he didn't do what he was supposed to do. This king didn't. Saul messed up, the first Jewish king, and he swung and missed. So Samuel, Shmuel Hanavi, Samuel the prophet goes out to the battlefield and he says to King Saul, so how'd it go? Great. Did the job? Yeah. You sure? Yes. Are you sure you're sure? Absolutely sure that I'm sure. Okay, so everything's gone? Yes. What are those animals that I hear? Well, we decided to keep some animals to offer them as sacrifices. Why'd you do that? Well, we thought it was a good idea, but God said not to. Well, the people told me to do that. But God said no. And then ultimately Samuel offers the words that are so powerful. God prefers you to listen to him over your animal sacrifices. Don't tell God what he wants. God, I'm sure you'd love an animal sacrifice. It's so arrogant. There's a word for it. I think I used it yesterday also. It's human splaining to God. It's like, God, I know what you said. However, I'm sure what you meant was that you'd love for some Amalekite animals. Can you imagine the transformation? Taking an animal, a cow from Amalek, this evil nation, the representation of evil, and offering it up to God. Can you imagine from darkness to light? I mean, they'll make a documentary about you, Saul. Like the guy, he was a man who went into the bowels of darkness and transformed it to light. Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
In a Kabbalistic sense, I can really see it. How he's like, oh, I'm really about to release these.
Oh my God. He was like, I am doing something that no one has ever done. I'm going to take the lowest of the low and lift it up to the highest of the high. And Samuel's like, but God doesn't want that. He said, yeah, but you know what we're doing here. Like, I don't think God knows what we're doing. Can you go back to God? He doesn't actually say this, but like,
Mira, cada una de las cartas tiene
the concept is like, can you go back and just tell God, are you sure he knows how epic this is? We have a documentary crew. I mean, this is all this. And the prophet says to Saul, you messed up. God doesn't. There are certain things in life that you just can't elevate, no matter how hard you try. The only way around it is rejecting it. That's it. In other words, God places light, points of light in this world. Some things God says, the way to deal with this light or fulfill the purpose of this light is by accessing it, reaching into it, and lifting it out. And sometimes the purpose of this thing is to be told no. A person says, well, I needed $20 and the cash register was open and there was $20 sitting in there. It's a sign from the heavens. I'm meant to take the money. Is it a sign from the heavens? Or is it a sign from the heavens to say no? It's like, yeah, but God would not have put that $20 in my path had I not been meant to take it. Yeah, he might have. He just might have. The Torah says, don't listen to a false prophet. And a false prophet is somebody who basically says, go against the Torah. God tells us what he wants. But if any human being comes along and says, nah, don't worry about that stuff, then we know, red flag. But imagine the Torah says, and this is in scripture, imagine the Torah says, yeah, but what if a guy comes up and he's doing all sorts of miracles and he's performing all sorts of predictions and he's like, predicting the future and everything's panning out. He's got it almost seems like he has special powers. And then he says, well, you can, you should change X, Y, or Z or disregard X, Y, or Z. So the Torah says, don't listen to him. So the obvious question is, as everyone raises their hands on this and says, well, wait a second, God, you're in charge, right? Yeah. So why'd you give this guy powers if he was going against your will? And the Torah itself answers it. What's the answer? It's a test. It wouldn't be a test if some clown got up and said, hey, break the law. You'd be like, bro, be gone. Like, I don't know what you're saying. The test is when somebody gets up and is like actually legitimately, performing miracles and then says, go break the law. Then, now that's a test. There's no test for some, I'll use a Yiddish expression, yuckel. How do you translate yuckel? Yuckel is, it sounds kind of like what it is. Some yuckel. Some schnook, also Yiddish. I don't know how to translate yuckel or schnook. I don't know. Yuckel, schnook, schmendrik. There's no real word here that we can use other than Yiddish. Whatever, some dude that goes ahead and says, oh, God changed his mind. You're like, sure he did. And I'll sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. Like, whatever, not happening. But somebody who performs miracles. So again, the question is, why would God have allowed this person to possess powers, to possess any spirit, any force? The answer is very, very simple. It's a test. It's not a test if the guy's a clown. It's a test if the guy's not a clown. Now you have a choice. Now you have a tough situation to decide. Am I going to follow this guy or am I going to follow the Torah? Right? OG Torah. That's what it comes down to.
Where does the Torah speak on those?
On the false prophet?
Yeah, that's my old.
I forget the verse. It said, but it literally says that it's being done leman ladas, in order to test you to know, will you follow the ways of God or not, or will you be seduced by some flashy charlatan? That's the question. But if it's not flashy, it's not a challenge. It's some dude on a soapbox saying, hear ye. Everyone's like, whatever. As the pigeons gather around, it's like, what are you doing? But some guy that's like, predicting things and things are happening. Okay, now I'm gonna be serious. What's the point? The point is that God sometimes puts things in our way that seem, wow, maybe I'm meant to follow that. I mean, maybe it's all lining up. Maybe the stars are aligning for this purpose. I mean, if God didn't want me to follow this thing or this person or do this thing, then he wouldn't have granted it these abilities or powers. And the answer is, well, no, he just might have, just to test you. God put the $20 there in the cash register that's open and the guy walks away when you needed $20, specifically to test you. Will you take it because convincing yourself that it's, oh, if God didn't mean for me to be with this person, they wouldn't have, let me meet them on the business trip. Yeah, no, that's exactly what would have happened. And you're still supposed to be faithful in your marriage. That's the way it works. You don't pull the line of divine providence, divinely ordained. I was meant to. If not, why did God make this happen? God made it happen to test you, for you to reject it and say, no, that's my point. Somebody says, well, if it's here, then that means I'm supposed to engage in it and find a spark. That's what Saul said. I mean, the animals here, but certainly we need to, no, sometimes it all makes sense, human logic, but God still says no for one reason, to test, who are you going to listen to? Your own calculations or God's clear command? That's what Samuel says to Saul. And he says, basically, if you don't get that point, then you have officially lost the kingdom. You've lost the monarchy. Yeah, you might be king until you die, but your descendants are not going to be king. You've lost the plot. You've lost the monarchy. That's not a king. King David, by the way, King David, you read the stories, he did some things, but you know what? He stayed king. And his son was king, Solomon. Why? Because when the prophet called him out, when Natan HaNavi, Nathan the prophet, called him out for the story with Bathsheba, you know what he said? The first words that he says, Chatasi Lashem, I've sinned. You know what? He owned it. Not like Adam, Eve's fault, God's fault. Not like Saul, the people's fault, right? Makes sense. I don't know what you're talking about. All that, the Ruach Shtus, or Shtuyot, the spirit of folly is very good. And everyone has a spirit of folly that is just perfectly tuned for their brain. Like my spirit of folly might not work for you. You'd be like, that's stupid. That's silly. Like, why? Like, I'm not going to listen to that. And then your spirit of folly might land on deaf ears for me. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Like, why would I ever do that? But your spirit of folly, my spirit of folly, for us, perfectly sends the right messages to get us thinking, well, maybe this is good. Maybe I should be doing this. Maybe that's okay and not so bad. Maybe I deserve it. Maybe they had it coming. Maybe no one's going to find out. Maybe I'll be able to say sorry later and it'll be fine. Maybe. There are no limits to the self-delusion or justification or rhetoric, internal, dialogue or whatever it is that we have in our own heads. There's no limit to that. It keeps on. We're always telling ourselves stories. But really the question, what really differentiates Saul from David is not, did you make a mistake? It's when you made a mistake, what'd you do after that? Did you own it like David? I have sinned before God. Or did you say, nah, me sin, I didn't sin. Let me tell you all the reasons why I didn't sin. And then keep on going until it's too late. And then when the prophet tries to leave, when the prophet's like, well, then we're done here. If you're never going to admit that you did something against God's will, then we're done. And then on the way out, he grabs the cloak, famously, of Samuel. You know the story? Samuel's leaving. Samuel's like, we're done. And he tries to hold him back. And he rips the cloak of Samuel, the prophet. And Samuel says to Saul, just like this cloak is ripped, God has ripped away the kingdom from you. That's the story. That's the story of Saul. It's a tragedy. But the tragedy, what is the tragedy? Not that he made a mistake, but that the Ruach Shtus, right? That narrative of storytelling, the delusional narrative, didn't stop after he committed the sin. It kept on going. Justification, justifying. You know, we're starting today's Rosh Chodesh El. It's not the first day of El. It's actually the 30th day of Menachem Av, but it's the first. There's 2 days of Rosh Chodesh, day 30 of the previous month, and day 1 of the upcoming month. Why are there 2 days at the beginning of the month? It's complicated. It's got to do with the moon. We'll leave it at that. It's complicated the way things worked back in the day and whatever calculations of when the new moon is. When the first point is, today is Rosh Chodesh El, day 1 of Rosh Chodesh. And this is the month that gets us ready for the high holiday season. And if there's any theme to the high holiday season, it's change. But you know what the greatest kryptonite to change is? When a person says, I didn't do anything wrong. I don't need to change. The greatest thorn in the side of change is this narrative of everything's fine. Everything's okay. What do I need to change? Like all is good. King Saul says to Samuel the prophet, I did, right? Mission accomplished. We did it. It's all good. And he's like, are you sure? Yes. No one to talk to. What I'm really saying is the greatest barrier to change is the belief that I don't need to change. Why do I need to change? Everything is fine. I didn't do anything like, oh, that thing that happened, that wasn't my fault. If they change, then it's going to be better. I don't need to change. Oh, wait a second. One second. Yes, I may have done something wrong. Still not owning it. But that person made me do it, right? My parents made me do it. My kids made me do it. My spouse made me do it, right? God made me do it. If God hadn't put that $20 bill in my path, I would have taken it. Why did God do that? God set me up. Not my fault. God, if you don't want me to do that, just don't hand it to me on a silver platter. Meaning, it's very easy to point fingers, and it's normal because no one wants to feel that they've done wrong. It's not a good feeling. No one wants to look at themselves in the mirror and say, oh, I messed up. It's an uncomfortable place to be in. But with discomfort comes growth. If we're always trying to make ourselves comfortable, then when are we going to grow? Then we're perfect the way we are, and everything's fine. And then what? I don't know. Where's the growth in that? Growth only happens through discomfort. Growth only happens through failure. If I've never failed because it was always someone else's fault, then when am I growing? In the aim or in the drive to keep ourselves safe, we don't grow. And then who's so who loses with that? We lose. I have found in life that the people that grow the most are the people that are the most vulnerable, that are most willing to say, bare their soul and say, I messed up. I failed. How can I make this better? It's true in business. People that have that try things and fail and they learn from their mistakes. People who build networks, who build collaboration by saying, I can't do this by myself. I need your help, as opposed to the pride of saying, I got this myself, and then not being able to do it. It's always through vulnerability and accepting one's weaknesses. King David says, Chatasi la'Hashem. I messed up. Can you help me? What do I do now? King Saul says, I did nothing wrong. Hey, right? I did nothing wrong. I didn't make a mistake. Right? Natan, good to see you. Come on in. Great to see you. Happy Rosh Chodesh.
Happy Rosh Chodesh.
So what's going on here? So what's happening is that on the one hand, our tradition tells us, go basic. Don't go over the top. Like keep everything in, keep everything measured. A little bread, a little salt, right? A little water, sleep on the ground. What do you need anyway? What do you need anyway? It reminds me of a story. It was a traveler, a wealthy guy that came to the Maggid of Mizrich. He was a great ascetic master. He came because he heard that this Maggid was like the spiritual giant. He wanted to discuss with him, get a blessing, whatever. Comes to his house. Small, tiny little, hut, hovel, whatever. Walks inside. It's like no furniture. Like maybe a piece of wood for a table and some straw on the ground and like nothing. He's shocked. He says to the rabbi, with all due respect, tell me, like, where's all your stuff? Rabbi looks at him and says, let me ask you a question. I have the same question about you. Where's all your stuff? I don't see furniture. I don't see all your, like, where's all your stuff? He says, well, Rabbi, I'm traveling. At home, it's a different story, but I'm traveling. The Maggid said, I'm also just traveling. At home, all the luxuries are there. This world, we're all just traveling through. So on the one hand, our tradition tells us, live. We don't have to go over the top. Live what you need. On the other hand, we're told that there's sparks of light, as I revert back to my my webcam box. There's sparks of light and things. You got to crack it open. If you don't try it, you're not going to get the light. So which is it? There's no magical solution to this tension. The answer is both. Both. We're meant to crack open things, but also we're meant to recognize that the purpose of the stuff is not the exterior. It's not the box. It's what's inside that counts. It's true with people. It's not the outside that matters. The outside. I always find it funny that, like, in relationships, people are always so, and I get it, by the way, but that we're so fundamentally concerned about the outside, when meanwhile that is the one thing that's guaranteed to change over time. The one thing that will always change is the outside. And of course, I'm referring to physical appearance. It's always going to change. No one ever looked the same. Maybe Dick Clark, but no, otherwise, no one ever looked the same. 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, 75, 85, 95, 105, 115, 120. It's not possible. So number one, we're reminded that it's what the inside that matters. Not only with people, it's with everything. With the food we eat, with the money we make, what's the purpose? What are we really doing with it? What's the real, what's at the core of it? Living an externally focused life, it doesn't take that long to become suffocated and drowning. It's like, what am I doing? Every single day running around for this stuff. I wake up every day just to collect more stuff. It's like the story of the chassid who's staying by an older couple's house. It's the night of slichos. We're coming up in a few weeks. The slichos or slichot prayers are recited in a week or so before Rosh Hashanah. Special prayers that are recited in the morning. Like early in the morning, earlier than the morning service. And the kickoff of slichot is midnight on a Saturday night. It's coming up in a few weeks. It's going to be a Saturday night, midnight, but Jewish midnight, not 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock is not really midnight. Jewish midnight is you take the number of hours divided by of daylight divided by 12. So every hour could be more than an hour. Could be more than 60 minutes. It's the way it works. So anyway, midnight sometimes is like Jewish midnight, like halachic, Jewish legal midnight. Sometimes it could be 1:30 in the morning. 1:30 in the morning, this couple gets up. Russia back in the day. They're getting ready to go to synagogue and recite the prayers. And they have this younger guy who seems like a religious dude sleeping in their house. And he's not getting up. They knock on his door, nothing. They open up the door. They say, Rabbi Ari. Name was Shmuel Munkus. They said, Reb Shmuel, time to get up. We're going to synagogue. He's like, it's 1:30 in the morning. They're like, what? Everyone's getting together. Say slichos. Slichot. He's like, what's the point? What are we going for? Like, what are we going for? He's like, yeah, what are you praying for? He's like, well, we're praying that the cows, this year the cow should give milk and the chicken should lay eggs. Right? All the blessings. He says to them, I never heard of an older couple getting up in the middle of the night to ask for milk and eggs. Seems a little strange. The question is this year, are we asking for milk and eggs? Or are we asking for something a little bit deeper? Because all of this for just milk and eggs, we need milk and eggs. I don't mean literally milk and eggs, but like, okay, we need milk and eggs. We need to get through this, right? We need to have food. We need, obviously, shelter, food, clothing, shelter. That's what we learned in social studies class. 3 basic human needs. You need something to eat, something to wear, and a safe place. Correct. Absolutely. The question is, what am I living for? That provides my existence. If I have those 3 things, I'll exist. But is that what it is? Just existing another day? What about life? What am I living for? This is what Kabbalah teaches us. Kabbalah guides us not just how to exist, work, make money, buy food, make dinner, and pack a breakfast and a lunch, and you'll exist. But what are we doing it for? What's the point of it all? What's the point? Just for another day? And another, until we die, another day, another day, another day? What are we living for? What about the spark inside all this stuff? What's the purpose of the food that we eat? The purpose of the money we make? The purpose of the homes and what's the purpose of it all? Not the outside, but the inside. And so, yeah, our tradition tells us that if we find ourselves focusing too much on the outside, take it easy. Bread, water, and some straw on the ground also works. But if you tell yourself, well, then maybe that's it. That's the totality of life. But there's also some magic to be found in the other stuff as well. Don't deprive God. Don't deprive the world of accessing the sparks because you want to be so holy. Don't make it about you either way. Don't make it about you and your luxury. Don't make it about you and your austerity. Make it about God. What does God want? God wants us to engage with the world, to have stuff, to do stuff, to uncover the sparks, the light embedded in creation, and to have that unleashed in the spiritual power to once again shine throughout the strata of creation. That's the purpose. That's why we're here. It's not any more mysterious than that. We're literally here to release the light, which eventually will take over the whole universe and bring about a time when only light will shine. We're not there yet. There's still darkness in the world. There's still negativity in the world. but we're getting there. So I asked in the email this week, I forget the exact subject line, I forget the exact quote, it was along the lines of austerity or indulgence, something along those lines, right? Are we meant to cut down or go big? The answer is, it's about going godly. Don't make it about, I'm going to deprive myself. Don't make it about, I'm going to have the luxuries. It's, what does God want us to do in this moment? God wants us to have resources. You check the title?
I was reading the email.
What's the subject line?
Pleasure or restraint.
Pleasure or restraint. There, that's what it was. I originally wrote the other one, and then I just made it simpler words, right? Pleasure or restraint. It's a false choice because it's not about either or. It's about finding the purpose in everything. The purpose of work, the purpose of wealth, the purpose of food, the purpose of friendship, the purpose of family. What's the purpose of it all? Purpose doesn't lie on the outside, it's always in the inside. If we are purpose-seeking individuals, we'll find the purpose. We'll live meaningfully. Every interaction will be uplifting. How many times have I heard from people how much they dread, work or relationships or whatever it is? And although there's no simple, snap the finger solution, one way to think about this is, if I can find purpose in what I do, then I am primed to feeling good about my day. If I don't find purpose, then I'm priming myself to feel miserable about my day. I know we're at the time, but I feel like I just need to round it out for one more quick turn of the idea. I think there is a false dichotomy that we've all bought into, and that is that life is a grind, material grind, like it's whatever. But then we have moments of time in which we can break away and find meaning, whether it's meditation or prayer or mitzvah or, Torah study, whatever. I'm speaking like from a Jewish perspective, obviously. There are moments in which we can reconnect to truth, and then we go back out into the world of craziness and mishigas. That's so not Kabbalistic. Kabbalah tells us, don't divide your day into meaningless times and then meaningful times. Everything needs to be meaningful. The work needs to be meaningful. Doesn't mean you have to work, a job that saves lives necessarily, although that's certainly good. But whatever you do, you can do honestly and ethically with a higher intent, a higher purpose. Take some of the funds and use them for positivity to make positive change in the world. There's a way to transform the work that we do to be a holy experience. Don't do it. If you want to think about it this way, don't do it for anyone else. Do it for yourself. Just so to feel more okay with waking up in the morning and doing whatever it is that you're doing. To inject meaning in our lives, in every part of our lives, is so critical. It's so clutch. All right, so with that, we'll close it out today. So today was about pleasure or restraint. Well, a life of indulgence and pleasure, certainly not, doesn't sound too Kabbalistic or Jewish. But a life solely of restraint for the sake of restraint is also not Kabbalistic or Jewish. The goal is the merge of them both. Engaging, but also engaging for a higher purpose. This is ultimately the blessing that goes to Jacob. So we talked about last week, Isaac wishes to bless Esau. But if he got the blessing, it would just be indulgence. It would just be pleasure. The blessing going to Jacob is designed so that the blessing can be channeled in a way that you get the webcam, you get the box, but you also discover what's inside and never forget the purpose of that which lies within. All right, thank you very much for joining me this morning for Kabbalah Café. Happy Rosh Chodesh. In case you're wondering, why are we not blowing the shofar? Don't we sound the shofar every morning from Rosh Chodesh? We do it from day number 2 of Rosh Chodesh, which is tomorrow. So day number 1, which is today, it's still Rosh Chodesh, and we did in the main sanctuary over there a beautiful musical Hallel. It's really beautiful. There was a ton of people in there, and there's also a breakfast that we sponsored out there. But tomorrow, but there's no shofar. Tomorrow there is shofar. So if you have the opportunity to hear the shofar, it's a great way to get into holiday spirit. I don't mean a chauffeur driving you around, although that's not a bad thing also. I only joke about that because I put into, I voice Googled something about chauffeur and they wrote chauffeur or whatever. I'm like, no, that's the wrong chauffeur. Although they do tell a story. They tell a joke about what is it? A cab driver in Israel who loses his brakes. No, he doesn't have a horn. Pulls out a chauffeur. I don't know. Something. I'm messing up the joke somehow. There's something there, but I certainly didn't get it. Anyway, I want to wish everybody a wonderful Elul. Rosh Chodesh Elul is also Yom Tzedakah. Mariana and Alex, we have some very, very good friends that I'm sure all of you know and or have gotten to know in Chile. And Rosh Chodesh Elul is a time to focus on the things that really matter. And the main focus of today is what's the purpose of work? What's the purpose of wealth? It's to help give and to help and to share with others. So today and tomorrow, great days to commit to tzedakah, to give tzedakah, and to give generously. Torah, what are the three themes? Well, tshuva, tefillah, tzedakah, right? Returning to Hashem, praying to God, and giving tzedakah. Those are the three big things that avert the severity of the decree. May we engage in all of them this month. May we indeed be blessed already before Rosh Hashanah for a happy and healthy, sweet new year. May all of our prayers be answered for the good, and let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Quick announcements. This week we have brand new series, and thank you, Dr. Maxey, for helping sponsor this. Yasher we have the art of parenting. Whether you're a parent, a grandparent, or thinking about becoming a parent at some point, this course is for you. I'm teaching it with Jessica Kreitzik, who is a parenting expert and one of the founders of Atlanta Conscious Parenting. So we are co-teaching this class starting tomorrow night, 8 to 9 p.m. It's called The Art of Parenting. Tuesday night, we have the Torah portion, the Parsha class, Torah studies, followed by our base medrash night. Wednesday night, we have boxing with the king. If you have
Wednesday.
For women, not so men have it. Women have the women's event. Yeah, so the guys are doing it. So guys have the boxing class, but yes, the women's class is off this week because there is a women's event fundraiser for the mikvah taking place right there in the social hall. So that's a big event Wednesday night. Cheryl, what's her name? Cheryl Amanoff, something like that. Anyway, a wonderful event that's happening Wednesday night for women, but men will have the boxing event. And then Thursday night, Tanya. Does it get any better than this? Oh, and I should mention, I know I'm keeping everybody very long, but throughout that last week and this week, we have a yeshiva for the yeshiva students that are in town for a few weeks in between their yeshiva schedules. So we have a yeshiva. Somebody locked
To
out?
get in and she doesn't know that she just has to press that thing.
Well, you know what? Natan is rescuing her.
She's pressing the wrong button. She's pressing the.
Okay. All right. Well, there is rescue and relief. So we've been doing a yeshiva for young students, 13 to like 18, 19 years old. We've had like 14, 15 guys every day. They show up 8:15 in the morning. They learn, they daven, they get breakfast, classes, outings, restaurant outings, trips. Today they're doing hiking. It's unbelievable. So I think as a community, we should all have nachas of all the wonderful things that are happening. All right, it's good to see everyone. Shavua Tov. Have a great week.
Shavua
Dr. Max,
Tov.
thank you for everything. Mariana, always great to see you. Thank you very much. Yaakov, great to see you. Yaakov, you would have loved, I don't know if you're in town today, you would have loved the musical Hallow. You were definitely here in spirit. All right, we'll see you all. Have a great week.